Hi Maggie, can you hear us?
Hey friends.
Hey, perfect. Perfect.
Very, when you're there, everything well. We all set, Rachel, or?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite 6 yet, though.
Check it, so it's 2 9 o'clock.
That was way ahead, that was right, it's fine.
Yeah. We've got some bigger space. Sarah's coming.
Oh,
Yeah, Sarah's daughter had a play or a musical or something, and then she come after. We thought it should only be
Yes.
like 5-10 minutes.
It's the spring concerts.
And you're stuck home.
Sorry, some of you guys I can't hear very well.
But hang on. Are we live, Rachel? Okay, guys, we'll get started. So Sarah's gonna be a little late. So before we get going, I would like to recommend that we amend the agenda and move garden club down one notch so that we've got a quorum, you know, when you guys do your part, okay? Sound good?
do it.
Good. Okay, let's see, Rachel, will you do roll call, please?
Good work out.
Here.
Scott Reed,
Here.
Dan Mulder, here, Danny Rucker.
Here.
We have a quorum, Sarah will be here, we're missing, Jamie, Maggie, and Sophia Summers at Cross Street. I think she had to be at, so.
It is getting there, yeah. Right, have you guys had a chance to look at the minutes? Any corrections or additions?
I move to approve them.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Well,
Yes.
we don't have a quorum, Rachel, so are we really voting yet?
Huh?
Can we vote? We don't have a quorum.
You have a quorum, we have 4 to 7.
4 to 7, okay, I was thinking it's 5.
Oh, yeah, Dick.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to start the meeting without.
All right, Rachel, we have some board communications this month.
No board communications, specifically. But I do, before we get to public comment, I'll just know, did everyone get my email, the forward email from Ashley O'Reilly? If not, I do have printed
Yeah.
copies, if anyone from the audience.
Yes.
Okay, cool, we're good then. Then no board communication.
Let's see, any public comments having to do with something that is not on the agenda? Great, then let's get going on new business. And I think what we will do is move the discussion about the master plan checklist up. You want to put that up, Rachel?
Yeah. Gotta find it.
So we've talked about this a few times now, just as we're getting going on getting a master plan together for every part, you know, what things do we want to make sure we have considered? This is kind of a new one. What is the history of the park? I think it's nice to have that documented
That's
for
good.
each part.
Very good.
And we have kind of a parks historian here. So going forward, he'll have more duties, I think. Yeah. I think it'll be helpful for writing articles for paper and a variety of things. The main one, what is our vision, goals for the park? How does it fit with our master plan and with the city's master plan? How does it fit with survey results? Does it prioritize flexibility? Does it prioritize open green space? There's something for all ages and abilities. Do we address safety? Is it ADA friendly? And have we looked at alternatives and pros and cons? So I guess the discussion here is, do you like these as checklist items? Is there anything else you can think of that we want to consider?
I think they look good as checklist items. The only thing that struck me when I was going through, and I know right off the bat, what is the history of the park is a great question. I don't know if we can draw special attention to native peoples and our, you know, sort of to make sure that when we talk about the history of our parks, we're not just talking about, you know, since, you know,
Yeah,
since
I really
since
like that.
settlement, since other things. So maybe reaching out to the tribe to make sure that, you know, we're sensitive, or if anything happened there before, frankly,
Was
before
it
we wrote
important
things
to
down, was it
culture?
important to
Yes.
culture, to make sure that we recognize that. And that there's a good piece in here about, we were talking about Thorn Park, when you were going through that, I was looking through it, and I thought it was really interesting from the tribe, but that sort of conversation with them feels like that would be a good addition, maybe just to say with
So
special.
why don't we say pre-settlement
Yes, yeah,
and recent history?
I think that makes. Thanks.
That. Rachel,
You are-
good, we're just glad you're here. So we're switching it up a little, we're doing a master plan. Any other thoughts? All right, shall we adopt this? I think we can just do that by consensus and
Yeah,
going
I don't
forward.
think I even need to vote, yeah, it's the consensus, and then just knowing that we can edit it in the future, it's gonna be a moving, active document.
Great. Okay, let's move on to the gardening club anniversary garden. And do we want to do the background piece first, right?
Yeah, so we just have, it seems long, but it's a lot of pictures, want to be conscious of everyone's time, but it just kind of gives an overview, of Thornton Park. So we're gonna run through that, okay. So as you can see, there's some historical images of the park. That would be what we know as the boathouse, today.
The Indian school behind.
Yeah, that would be
Mhm.
Holy Child. I don't know if you can see my cursor, you can't, so that was. The big picture, this is just an outside of the plans. You have the beach, the boathouse there to, it would be your right, looking at it. It's comprised of a large lawn area, as we know, city beach is to the west, open, lawn area on the other side, with frisbee, picnic thing. There's a lot of shade trees in that area. Any questions on the layout of the park? Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna move through it. A lot of
This is
you kind of already
basically
know,
for the
yeah.
council members.
So Thorn Park elements that maybe we haven't noticed, there are a couple recognition plaques. There's a boulder there, the cannon, the flagpole has like a little space for a plaque. The plaque is MIA. I'm not sure if the Legion has it. I'm not sure, but there used to be a plaque there. There actually used to be a garden around that flagpole too, historically.
It's 2 feet by 2 feet.
Yeah, the playground has historically always been on the beach, that got revamped past year, the restroom building. And then as we've talked about, you know, the importance of the history, maybe adding signage in the future of the tribe. That's the boulder, that would be right, if you're looking at the beach building, be right to your left, next to that bike rack that's usually there in the summer.
The land that the beach is on was donated by the Meyer family.
Yeah.
After there was a drowning at the beach.
And then, this is the cannon, the purple cannon.
The first thing in the park, this predates even the
The fountain.
water fountain
Yeah, you
pavilion.
can see Holy Child in the background, so
Yeah. Amazing. Love these old postcards.
I am gonna mute Maggie. If I can. It's not gonna let me.
This one is kind of funny because you see 2 little spruce trees either side of the canyon. And you see 2 big spruce trees and then all of them to the west.
So other cannons, we have these in here to show that we have an amenity in our park that is not ADA compliant. It's never been brought up to do a master plan for this park, but when we do, that's a road we will go down. But this is the cannon in Pennsylvania Park in Petoskey right now, which is currently under construction. This is Veterans Park in Boyne City, as you can see. Maybe you've ever been there. That is the plaque, so the area underneath the plaque is there, but the plaque is missing. Again, that's likely the Legion. Yeah, it's not there.
Do you know for sure it's not just covered by grass?
No, it's not there. I mean, yeah. And then there's the flagpole, as you can see. Other flagpoles, within the city, this one, on the far right, the black and white, that is Ford Park. And we have the one by the post office, the one at City Hall, the one at the Harbor Master Building, and then the one at Harbor View. They all have some sort of landscaping around them, if not a garden. Majority of them have a garden. I think there's only one that has stones around it. Other flagpoles in the area, Bayfront Park, Petoskey, there's landscaping around those. Veterans Memorial, Boyne City, you can see there's some landscaping. East Park and Charlevoix.
Most of them actually have hardscape. around.
Yeah,
Other kind of ADA.
but they're not randomly in the middle of a park, I guess is the principle of the story.
More than $2 billion.
That's the update of beach. Everything in that. The restroom building. And the future sign, just commemorating if you were,
Nice.
tribe in
Maggie.
history.
Did you try and mute Megan?
Yeah, I tried. Hey Maggie, can you hear us?
It's not me. It's the other person. I've been muted the whole time.
Oh, there's someone on. Oh, there's someone
Yeah.
on here.
It says Margaret's iPad.
Okay.
That's the other Maggie.
I'll
Yep.
mute. Now they're all muted. Okay. There we go. Here it's not showing all the, there we go. Perfect. Any questions or comments?
One thing that Rachel and I have talked about
Okay.
is, you know, not at this meeting, but at a future major meeting, it seems like it'd be really good to discuss whether we need a policy on plaques. She was saying we have all sorts of plaques that we don't even know about. It's for, and there, she gets calls all the time, I want to put a plaque here, I want to put a plaque there, and I think it would be helpful to have some type of policy.
Yeah, events at Lower Zorn, the car show, the coastal crawl, there have been some concerts in the past.
These are all lower Zone too.
Here's just like a quick site plan, and it's mostly just to show you where the things are, where the trees are, where the flagpole is located, where the cannon is located, and then Upper Zorn.
That garden is drawn to scale.
Yeah.
What you guys have proposed. Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of this.
Well, let's
This
get through the
chart.
presentations and then we'll get into discussion now. We don't need to skip ahead. So the discussion,
We'll come back to this, Rachel, after they've done theirs, maybe.
yeah. We will look at our.
Okay. Well, thank you all for having us in today. We know you've got a lot going on and there's a lot of cleanup and a lot going on with the parks, but we're super excited to be here. We've got some ideas we'd like to share with you. My name is Annie Patterson. I'm Vice President of the Garden Club, and I have some esteemed colleagues here. And if you ladies wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, great.
I'm Kathy Stewart. I'm Jenny Heinritzy. I'm the garden chairperson.
Carol Winnard, I'm the treasurer and the membership chair.
Nancy Zucker, former president, board of directors now.
And I've been introduced them too because they've got a lot more experience and history than I do in some areas. So if questions come up, you might just get a panel discussion. One thing too is that we have a short presentation, but it's meant to be conversational. So at any time, if I'm skipping over to something too fast or it doesn't make sense, just stop me. And we really want to talk through and even brainstorm as we're going through the presentation. So let's keep it conversational. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the discussion of this garden at Zorn Park, I just wanted to give a little background about the Harbor Springs Garden Club. We are 110 members strong in the Garden Club, and we're growing. So we added 16 last year and 8 so far this year. So people from all walks of life, all ages, all activity levels. We have 91 active garden members, a few in their 90s, which is a great inspiration. So young and old, we all contribute. The club currently has 14 gardens. So if this were to be approved, the Zorn Park Garden would be our 15th. We also plant and maintain 14 flower pots throughout the city. We plant over 3,000 flowers annually. And the club is active for 19 weeks, so much more than just the summer months. Our leadership members meet and plan year round. So there's a lot of work to go into making flowers bloom in Harbor Springs, believe it or not. We provide, it's the fun little factoid. We provide approximately 2,700 labor hours of gardening each year. We did some mathematics and came up with that figure in terms of the hours put in. And using the IRS standard rate of $33.49 that they deem appropriate for volunteer work, This adds up to almost $90,000 in contributions that our labor puts forward for the city. The hard costs that we incur are approximately $8,000 amongst the flowers and the flower planting materials. And we fund ourselves via member donations, individual donations, business donations, and some generous support from the city. But we are pretty proud of the fact that over the 50 years that we've been in business, we've never had a shortfall, or we've never taken on a project that we couldn't fund and complete. So we take our financial responsibility very seriously. And we really feel like we would never recommend something that we can't make sure we can handle through fruition. As of 2026, we'll celebrate 50 years of being the Garden Club Harbor Springs. That's kind of one of the reasons we're here. So we are proposing the Zorn Park Garden to celebrate our 50 years, to give back to the city, and also to honor our roots. So that's just a little overview of what we do. Next slide, please. So this map you're seeing here is the map of the Harbor Springs Garden Club current gardens. So the little round green circles with white lettering are our 14 gardens. As you can see from the map, we have quite a bit of gardens along the waterfront, mostly on the east side of State Street. And so we're looking at the beautiful harbor and waterfront here. We really picked the location at Zorn Park because we thought it was missing some flowers and festive look of our gardens elsewhere. And we thought we really wanted to have a representation across the entire waterfront. That's why we picked this location. Any questions so far? Okay, keep going. So as I'm sure you know, because we've seen it just previously, this is the map of the location. And so you guys have studied this quite a bit. You know exactly what we're talking about here. The arrow points to the flagpole. And that is where we want to build a garden around the flagpole. So this is a site analysis, and it's pretty straightforward. But in the very center of the screen, the green circular item is the actual proposed garden, the flagpole being in the center. You can see the trees from overhead. So this is the trees looking down in full foliage. So you can kind of see the open spaces that remain. So some of the things we thought about, we wanted to obviously plant where a vertical structure already exists. So the flagpole is already a vertical structure that in some ways breaks up the waterfront look, right? So that's where we're proposing it. We would be using a variety of colors and evergreens so that we'd have a visual pop for most of the year. And then something that's super, super important is we realized that it's a big deal that we don't obstruct the view, right? So the plantings, unlike some of the gardens we have throughout the city, which might be high in shrubs and voluminous, we're really proposing really low plantings here, right? So we want to keep the plantings low. We don't want to obstruct the water view at all. We put a lot of thought into that. And then we feel like it would really formalize the flagpole too and give it a little bit of a stature that it deserves, and honoring the veterans and all the ceremonies we have there, patriotic ceremonies we have throughout the year. So we think the hardscape would really add a little oomph to the look of that area. And then it's very important as well, provide ADA access to that site. And then another very important thing, and we know that a lot of people feel very passionate about this for the right reasons, we want to maintain open space. We're not organizational play. We know that a lot of families gather there. We know a lot of people go to the beach. We know people like to play Frisbee. So we really, really try not to make that garden too big or to break up those spaces.
Question, Annie?
Yes, please.
Tip Easterwood. Back to that slide just for a sec. I don't know anything about site plans, and I really don't know the park too well. Is there anything else new besides that flagpole in the center that's new, or is everything existing, or are you planting it? Is there anything else new on this plan here?
No, I don't believe.
So all the other like green circles are already there. So the only thing we're talking about is just the literally
Yes, exactly.
flagpole.
Exactly.
And how big is that? I'm sure you're gonna get to it.
It's the very next slide. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. So concept one, which is the radial design, is 16 feet in diameter. With a 4 foot wide walkway. Concrete pavers leading up to the actual garden. As we mentioned, ADA accessible throughout, including wheelchair access, not only to, but around the flagpole. We're looking at dwarf evergreens, again, low to the ground. And then the dwarf evergreens would provide color throughout the year. And then supplemental flowers, so we'd have the pop May through October. Views of the water maintained is very important, and then we are also using pavers for the Department of Public Works. Was a big fan of these pavers because it goes for easy maintenance. Any question about concept one so far? Okay, let's go to the next slide. So concept two is a rectilinear, which I had to look up that word to be honest with you. Rectilinear means straight lines and straight angles. So it's very similar, but we wanted to give you all options, visual options and different things and different layouts. But pretty much all the other bullet points are the same, right? So it's going to include the same sort of shrubbery and flowers, same sort of access. It would take up a little bit more of a footprint in the park. So we actually, our preference is the radial design, but we wanted to put that out there for your consideration as well. Let's continue on. And here's a perspective shot. So you can see a humanoid figure there next to the flagpole, and that can give you a perspective in terms of trees, flagpole, and the surrounding garden would look. And that is the end of our brief presentation. But we would love to entertain questions you might have or any further discussion that we would like to do.
I have to admit that when I first heard of this, I was not a big fan of it because I'm really into green spaces. Open spaces and a car show, the art show, or all the other things. But your presentation was very good. I like the positioning of it. I like concept one more than two. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I'll be interested in hearing what you want to have planned for Harborview and Shea Park.
Okay.
I was looking at this picture, can you, that second one that's right there by it's by the Harbor Masters, just past the Harbor Master there at the waterfront. Yeah, and Child's Park. Thank you, and Child's Park. How big is that one? Just for.
It's a great question.
I didn't think it is.
I gotta think. It's not as big as this area. It's smaller. If conceptually you'd move it in about here to the front of that desk. And it'd be about this width if you could sit around.
So Nancy, would you say it's larger or smaller than a proposed two?
I'd say it's yeah, it is. It's got the brick all around, the big brick all around it as well.
So that's where I was kind of trying to get a sense of what, because it's sometimes you think 16 feet, that's 8 feet on each side. What does that really look like? That particular little garden I walk by all the time, and it's not, well, if you lay it out here between these tables, it seems big. It's not huge, it doesn't take up a ton of space, so it seems like if that's the space we're taking up around the flagpole with, including, right, and including the sidewalk around it, right? So, yeah. Thank you.
This to me looks like it might be smaller, just looking at the size of the daylilies and the daisies and so forth, they're usually like a couple feet.
And it goes back further.
Yeah,
It's
deep. No, you took that rounded front part, my eye, that looks more like 8 or 10 feet. Just looking at the size.
The front part, you're right, yeah, the very front of it is smaller,
Yeah.
but then the back part, it is wider to the back part. But not significantly.
I know I don't get to vote because I'm not present tonight, but I just had a question. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of the garden club. I'm a avid gardener myself. I fully support this, and option one would be my choice. But my question is about maintenance, because I see my own kids run through there and rip things up, and I see the wood chips and the ornamental grass that we planted around the playground last year get torn up after only a couple days. So what is your plan for maintenance with this garden with the heavy traffic through it?
Yeah, I can address that. Thank you. It's a great point. We do have a lot of tramplers throughout our gardens in many spots. But one of the things we do, since we have so many active members, is we have teams that assign to these gardens. So throughout the summer, we have shifts that on a weekly basis are weeding, cleaning, and fixing any sort of messes and debris spills. So we would have a really big staff on this new garden because it's new and because there'd be a lot of education, a lot of learning. But we would be manning this garden on a weekly basis, so I think you can rest assured that we would be able to take care of it, and make sure it's visually pleasant, even with, you know, rompers and pillagers and all that stuff.
Great, thank you. That was just my main concern, so I just wanted to hear what you had to say, so thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I think, Maggie, too, that we won't have any of the wood chips there because it would be, the proposal is hardscape. And then the plantings, and all the plantings, with the exception of the dwarf evergreens, will be annuals so that there's constant color. Where in some of the other gardens, we have, you know, maybe half perennials and half annuals. These would all be annuals, just so that we can have it completely full of color the whole season.
Sure, that's great. Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Scott.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I would just say that the Harbor Springs Garden Club does incredible work for the city. The gardens are so beautiful, they're so well maintained. And, you know, this is a great idea. And, you know, I hope everything works out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it.
So just have a couple of questions. So the 4-foot walkway inside, you know, mentioned as ADA access, but there at this point, we don't have a plan to get a sidewalk to the ADA access. Is that correct? Like, that's not something, so I know when we were talking about putting the playground in a similar location here, there was a lot of concerns about, well, why are we doing this if we can't even get people to the location to begin with? So I guess that's not a question, just a thought that I have. A couple of other questions because of the pushback that we've received trying to work in that area. Have there been other locations considered at Zorn Park? And then also my other question is the 16 feet sounds to me, sounds big, right? And so has there been consideration of doing a smaller size garden in that location to start? And then if everything's fine and there's not being torn up, adding to that to eventually get to your 16 feet, just kind of starting smaller and then getting larger.
I can start off and then Jenny, if you want to.
Well, I can address
Yes,
that.
please.
Sure. Well, when you look at 16 feet, so it's really 8 feet from the pole.
Right.
Then you have 4 feet of that is taken up with the hardscape. And one of the reasons we did that was because we know that the veterans have ceremonies and things of that nature there. We wanted it to be friendly, not muddy, and other things. So we have 4 feet there. So that means that we only have another 4 feet with plantings. That includes the shrubberies and the garden space. We looked at, actually looked at bigger. We said, no,
bigger.
yes, and we did lay out smaller, but once we include the hardscape and the access around the pole, we thought, no, we needed a little more. So I hope I.
Yeah,
addressed-
thank you.
I think you had a question about did we consider other places at Zorn Park?
Yes.
We did. We met with Dana and with Rachel a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. They had some, great ideas and so flexible and brainstorming with us. But we couldn't quite find a place that worked. We looked at closer to the beach. We looked at over to the east side of the park a little bit more. But we really couldn't find a spot that did justice to what we're trying to accomplish. But we did try and be creative and think outside the box on that. We just couldn't find one that really worked within Zorn Park.
Thank you. And definitely I love it. I mean, it looks beautiful. I love all the work that you guys do. I just know that from the previous couple of years, the pushback that we received, I would just want to think through some of these things. So I have answers.
If I may say something with the ADA accessible, okay. Not all people, there's larger wheelchairs, larger walkers with inflatable wheels now. I have a personal friend uses that because that allows him to get over the grass. So more people are able to use that, so access to it would be possible.
It's about
And
16.
I'm definitely an advocate of that. This was, again, just a question that was brought up to us when we previously
Yeah,
thought
sure.
through that,
Well,
and so.
I'm a nurse. I was not aware that they had actual walkers that had blow up tires. I mean, with that. And I went, what? You know, what's the what? Because my girlfriend's husband is 6'8". Can you imagine the size of the walker he's using? And they have that now. So that is totally amazing. We've seen the beach stuff that they can push people around in. So, you know, it's ideal. It you know, to add, you know, to it. So thank you.
I've got a comment about the hardscape too. That really is my only reservation. Same concerns, like if there's not ADA accessibility to it, then is there really a point in having ADA accessibility around it? I did some research and apparently you only need to deal with one side of the flagpole. You don't need access on all sides. So that might be a way to shrink it a little bit. I guess one of our philosophies at the Park Size has been to favor green space over hardscape. I don't know what kind of comments we're gonna get from the community on this, but that, you know, that could be one that you would get as a hardscape. In my perfect world, I wouldn't mind seeing it just a little bit smaller and maybe skip the pavers and just do like some big flagstone stuffers to go to it.
Can we see concept one again, please, on that slides?
You only need access to the flagpole from the south side. And I understand the idea of formalizing it, but at this point, we don't have anything else formalized with ADA access around the cannon or anything else. So I guess that would be my preference, but I love the idea of a garden there other than that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi, I had one question. You almost, I think, answered it, Dana. What are the ADA requirements, period, for doing a flagpole garden or a flagpole plaque or whatever?
This is one thing that Rachel and I have been debating is when you put an attraction in a park, do you definitely need to have ADA accessibility? And so, like, for example, the AHA went in without an ADA walk to it. And the locomotive is gonna go in and there may or may not be a walk to it. So at what point do you say, okay, well, it's just a flagpole, you know, maybe we don't need a walk to it.
Especially if your whole, not your whole, but your overlaying master plan, so to speak, is keep green space at this.
Yeah.
So here's a decision, nothing's ever cut and dry, but
Part of it's
at least
law.
this ADA isn't gonna tell you have to have, leaving the 16 feet out of it, it's not gonna tell you have to have a circle of pavers. Apparently you could have a little
No, I think-
step of a paver.
Rachel, do you want to address this? She's
Yeah,
actually
so-
talked to Jim Raymond. We're going to talk to him.
So it's less about ADA accessibility, and when I first started this conversation with the garden club, it was more about having access to the flagpole. So I guess what we're saying is, considering we're not gonna put an ADA path to the flagpole, it's not necessary to have access on all sides. So if the garden club wanted to shrink that 4 feet on all sides and allow for that, just that 4 foot or whatever access to the flagpole, that would suffice. For the Legion to get to the flagpole, do their ceremony, that gives a little more wiggle room on sides and less hardscape. So it's kind of a meet in the middle. If we're not gonna attach it to a pathway, it's not ADA anyhow, so.
Right, and then I think
Yeah.
that's where we're all sort of
That's the way
headed,
I describe it.
which is you have to get to the flagpole to raise and lower the flag. So you're gonna have to get through the garden somehow because we don't want to trample through it to get to raise and lower the flag, right? So if we're gonna do that, we might as well do it in a way that can accommodate people with different abilities to get to and from that little bit there, understanding we're not pouring a sidewalk, we're not doing all the things we probably do, but people do walk out there. It'd be nice to make it easy for them to get to the flagpole to raise and lower. So we gotta do that. So perhaps as you're thinking through this, you know, kind of these iterations, if you don't have to go all the way around with the hardscape and we just go from one side for the ability for folks to use the actual flagpole itself, how does that change how you think about the plan? And perhaps how would it change the dimensions that we're talking about? And that might be something as you, from this meeting, to think about. I don't know the answers to those,
You
but.
guys just saw me pace it off, so that's 16 feet. And I kind of like Sarah's idea of what if we did start a little bit smaller? You know, one of our things at parks is to trial things before we jump all in, just to make sure it's gonna work.
Well, if it's all right with you all, we have a board meeting on the 21st of April. So we will take notes and get all your feedback. And then kind of discuss amongst ourselves what we think we could do. I just don't want to make a promise here that we might not be able to follow through on. So, but we want all your feedback because obviously we want to work with you. You know, we're not hard and fast.
If this was any, I think if this was any other park and any other flagpole, this wouldn't be, this wouldn't be, I think, thoughts that I would have, but simply going back to the feedback that we've had from the community about that space. I think we need to go slow on this and ask the question.
We'll roll up our sleeves and take another look at it. But we'll just need a little time to think about it.
Go back and look at the picture with the garden.
Which one?
The one of the Harbor Master Garden. Or maybe it's.
Child's Park.
Yeah, right there. I love the look of that garden, so I don't know if that's what you guys are thinking about, but I think it's gotta be big enough, you know, where it's gonna have some pizzazz when it's just out in the middle of the park all by itself, so I just don't know about making it too low. And I love the idea of putting perennials, and I understand your thought completely, they have color year round, but in this garden, you know, that's got daisies, it looks like it's got daylilies, I don't know what else is in there, sedum probably, but hydrangeas, but.
So you're not so concerned about the height of the flowers? That's something we took pretty seriously, but are you saying that you think it's okay to have larger, higher flowers?
Well, not like 4 feet or, you know, like 2.5 feet, you know, something like that.
I think it would almost be more beneficial to have flowers that are, you know, around 2.5 feet because that would deter less people running through it. I love that garden at Child's Park too. I think it's beautiful. I think it'll be beautiful to have a garden there, but I share the same concerns as Sarah with pushback from the public and starting maybe just a little bit smaller.
Mhm. So you think the size would remedy the situation rather than the height? Okay. That's good
Yes,
choice.
absolutely.
Okay, that's great
And
feedback.
is this mapped out, I think I saw some flags down by the flagpole, is that the diameter?
Yeah.
That's already
Mapped
what
out
it
at
is.
16, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what size would you like us to go back to the board with? Because I think
Don't wanna keep going back and.
Yeah, right. And, you know, one of the reasons, like Jenny said, we started larger than 16 and then we got feedback, so we took it in is because that space is so huge and all green and then the beautiful water, obviously. We also wanted to make sure it didn't look trivial in there. Because it's also our 50th anniversary,
Yeah.
so we really are, you know, we want it to be impactful. We want it to look beautiful all the time for everybody. So if you could give us some idea of what
So
size
from a
you want.
staff standpoint, I don't believe that's the Parks Board's role. Parks Board's role is decide if you want a garden there. Bigger, smaller, otherwise, do you want a garden there? When staff speaks to Jim Raymer and we have some more details, I don't think it's gonna lead to having it to be ADA. But as long as we say, I think the appropriate response would be, we don't want it larger than this. Not, this is the size we want it. Is that,
I think we're also saying we might like it small. Lose the rest of
but I don't think we
Little
should
bit small.
say a specific, no, I think we should stay away from that.
But we don't want them to have to be guessing either.
Right,
I don't think we need to tell them a firm thing, but.
but if we say a firm figure, the goal is to have them not have to come back to the person. And if we change that figure, then we have to come back and that's not needed, it's not. Yeah.
One thing I'd like clarity on is the 50th anniversary of
The garden club.
the garden.
It's 2026.
Yeah,
And so we wanted to install it this year, so that next year, what we want to do is ribbon cutting. And so we want to make sure that the garden just looks fabulous at that time. So
Because,
why we want to plant it.
you know, I see people every day and I explain and tell them about what's going on with you, and I'm a 1,000% supporter of the garden club. But, you know, to explain it correctly, that's all I wanna know.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And
Really
really good
appreciate having that.
point about, the whole discussion about plaques, like what were you guys thinking you would like in the garden? To say this is the anniversary garden, or whatever.
We haven't really thought about it. You know, we do have in every garden a small one.
Yeah.
I think they're about this size,
Right.
that just say Harbor
Stick in the
Springs
ground.
Garden Club, that stick in the ground at metal.
And it says,
Pardon?
They just weren't muted.
Is that a legit one?
So I don't think we, because I saw that in some of the comments later, we don't have our hearts set on any particular thing, but as I said, on the other 14, we do have
Yeah.
the thing that just says Harbor Springs Garden Club.
Beautiful.
And I guess, you know, we just wouldn't want any surprises, you know, with the community or whatever, to all of a sudden see like, you know, a big one there
No,
or something,
that's not-
so, yeah.
that's not-
Yeah.
I totally was. No, and I think we need to have the same consistent one that we have at the other 14
Great,
gardens.
great.
I'd just like to make one more point too about the hardscape. If it was a little bit simpler, like some slabs or something like that, it would be movable if for some reason it doesn't work out. If you go to all the 8 inches of crushed stone pavers and all that, that's not so movable. So, I guess, you know, we were talking in our meeting with Rachel about, you know, that being a benefit of the garden is that if something changes, you know, you could move it. So that, you know, taking that approach with less hardscape, I think would make that.
What do you think about that, Jenny and Joe?
I think that's absolutely
Okay.
doable.
Okay,
Sure.
good.
So we haven't heard public comment
Yeah.
yet, right? And
Yes.
also, I just have another question for you, Rachel. Next steps, you mentioned not coming back to the Parks Board. So would they have to go to another organization?
And go to council.
It
So
would
my
go to council.
recommendation would be we take public comment, we do a roll call vote. And then you can put a stipulation on there to not exceed this size, this many feet. But I think to put a firm number on there wouldn't be the smart choice. But I think saying like no more than 16 feet, or no more than 15 feet, or 14, whatever you decide, I feel that's appropriate. But you'd hate to like have it be over by 5 inches and then have it be a thing. So that's why I
Yeah,
say
well,
stick away from a very specific
Yeah.
number.
And Rachel, do
Just
we
keep
even?
in mind, we've got 115 women in this.
I
garden
even-
club. Think about that in one gentleman. So just think about it.
One more question, and maybe you talked to Lucas about it already, but what about sprinklers and keeping it watered?
We do have sprinklers there, and Lucas indicated that they would work with us to make sure that everything was
Do you have
irrigated
misters?
accordingly.
I'm just curious, do you have misters in the gardens, or do you just let the lawn heads do it?
The lawn nets.
Okay.
And a couple of our gardens don't have it. Like East Hill,
Wow,
which
just-
Harbor,
Yeah.
which is one out of Capitol, does not have any irrigation. So we have to plant accordingly, obviously.
Okay, let's go to public
Public
comment
comment,
then. Why don't we start with people on Zoom?
Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to make a public comment in regards to the garden club's proposal? Does not seem that way. Is there anyone in the room who would like to make a public comment?
I think I already went too soon, sorry.
There's one.
No, no.
No.
Oh, yeah, okay. Margaret, your hand is raised. You can begin whenever.
okay, thank you. One, I love the garden club, everything you all do. My one,
I'm sorry, could you say your name and address please first?
sure, Margaret Lacey, 315 East Third Street. I know this is the 50th anniversary, and we are looking at Zorn Park. Did you all look at other locations to if it doesn't pass Zorn Park, that you would have a second choice?
Yes, we did, and we talked to Dana and Rachel about that as well. We talked about a couple different locations throughout the city, and you know, we want to be flexible and work with the city. I have to tell you, we really have our heart set on this location for all the reasons that we described, and our membership is very, very interested in this location. So I don't want to say we're inflexible or we won't work with you, but we did go through an exhaustive look at many other locations, and they just didn't have the same appeal.
Yeah.
So respectfully, yes, we have.
And just, just because of the last few years with that park, there was many of us really wanted to have it to stay green, easy, no additional maintenance. And it seems like we're just getting more and more of all of our parks where we, it's adding manpower to maintain what we're doing with our parks. And, Zorn's like it's the crown jewel. And I know everybody wants to be there, and but it's just for me, I like what you're doing, and I'm 80% there, but I just would like to really start slow and make sure that we do vet this appropriately, so everybody understands what this means to that park, because it will change the look and the feel of that park, as the last time we went down the road with Zorn Park. So that's just my thoughts, and just wanted to know if there was a second choice, if by chance it doesn't go through.
We don't have a second choice right now, but we obviously we can talk to you about anything, but we really don't have a second choice right now.
Yeah, and like I'm just one person, so I don't know what the public's going to say, but that's just my first reaction, but the 16 feet, I think is way too big, because we want people to be utilizing that beach area, and it does get full. And I agree with the Parks Board going smaller and going from there. Okay, thank you.
Meg. Any other public comment on Zoom or in the building?
Rachel, would you like to go back to that slide in Zorn Park visuals, that last one? See if there's anything else in there to touch on.
Or which one? Where?
In the Zorn Park visuals, the last slide that we skipped over.
Yeah, Dana, Rachel.
Yes, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Is this?
Usually I'm at these meetings, so I'm struggling a little bit with my technology.
Okay.
But I would like to put my input in more as a lifelong resident of this area. And there has been a flower garden around that flagpole for as long as I can remember. My grandfather came home from World War II, and there was a flower garden there. And I honestly do believe that this is not something that should be left up to anybody other than my park staff.
I didn't know that.
I'd like some input. I think Rachel would like input on how to do it and design whatnot. But I think this is something that needs to move forward. It's not a bad thing. There's a lot of grassy area there. There's a lot of room there. We have the cannon. I mean, this is a part of our history of this town. And let's not make it something that it shouldn't be. Let's not involve everybody in it and have to take it to the council and take it to a vote. Let's do it and be done. It's flowers.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. Can we have a round of applause, please? Let's just run through this, make sure we touched on everything.
Anybody else?
As you said, parks west of State Street, many of the flagpoles have gardens. Be nice to have some color at the park. Paid for and maintained by the Garden Club. Yep. The cons, we don't have a master plan for this park, but that's kind of why we went through some of the visuals and the background stuff on what else is at the park. And I don't think this is going to interfere with anything that would be coming down the road. Okay, so the vision so far has been for green space. Gardens are green. I think this fits right in, right? And the same thing with the community. I think, I looked through some of the old surveys and the master plans for references to gardens and how much we value the gardens in Harbor Springs, and it is so true. And I think maybe we just take them for granted. We're so used to seeing them and we love them, but we, maybe don't outwardly value them enough. So I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it'll keep flexibility. I think especially if it's a little bit smaller. And if, as long as we know the signage is not gonna be crazy big, that'll be good. And let's see, then we've discussed the hardscape. So I think that's good. And do you feel we're ready for a motion? Is there any more discussion?
I just have a question. I'm wondering if Rachel, you had any other additional input you want us to consider as the expert on parks in the room?
All I wanna say is, I know the community, some do not like change. I understand it. I'm not a huge fan of change myself, but change comes, whether we want it or not. And on this Parks Board, we're gonna do master plans for parks. And when you do master plans for parks, it's 2025, guys. We're gonna have to bring things to ADA. We're gonna have to put hardscape in places. We're gonna be forced to in some plans when we do things in the future. And I understand that individuals are not gonna be happy about it. Unfortunately, that's life on some level. So I definitely understand the hesitation. I appreciate the discussion. But we have to move forward. We have to. We really don't have a choice. So I think this is a great plan. I'm excited to bring it to council. We get a lot of compliments. Most of our compliments are on the garden club. Can't even tell you how many times people have stopped me and said the parks does such a good. I'm like, whoa, not parks. No. So I think it'll be a great addition.
So if I could kind of craft a motion
please.
here.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move that the Parks Board vote to be supportive of the Garden Club's 50th anniversary garden at Zorn Park. Our preference, if we wanted to say to you, although I understand the council has this, but our preference is for a smaller garden and for less hardscape in that garden to allow us to sort of be more flexible with that space over the long term. And so we should signal our support for it and pass it along to council.
I think we should have a specific number there. What we
I
don't want
do too,
the garden to exceed. Just what we don't want the garden to exceed.
Okay,
Just so when I work with the garden club, we know where not to go. Like, what do we not want it any bigger than 15? 14? I know, like it's hard to put a number.
so I don't,
Seriously.
okay, so I made a motion. I don't necessarily, if we're not gonna put a minimum on it, I just don't know why the rationale is, well, so you've given us a presentation, we looked at it, and our preference is for smaller than that. That's our preference. I don't know what that preference is. I don't know how much smaller. I don't know what it is. I don't wanna tie your hands, but our preference is for smaller. Now, the motion's there and if it doesn't get a second, that's okay too. We can recraft it, but I just worry about putting too many numbers in things that we don't have a business of deciding.
I think, I mean, we are a parks board. We've heard a lot of opinions. The garden club are the experts. It seems like we're all in support of this. And I think if you're making a motion, I know I can't vote on it, but I think you should just stick with their maximum of 16 feet and just say we do not exceed that. And they're going to take our recommendations into consideration when they plan it.
Okay, and then let me recraft it then a little bit, Rachel, sorry. Then our preference, we are supportive of the Garden Club's 50th anniversary garden at Zorn Park. Our preference is to be smaller than your 16-foot maximum that was proposed here today. And we think less hardscape is probably our preference as well. Not as worried about ADA compliance.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
This doesn't mean forever, right? So if the preference is, and then later on in 5 years, we notice that there's no issue. If the garden club goes bigger, that doesn't mean we've cut them out from going bigger, right?
I guess my only concern still is, we're still starting big. I would rather start smaller and then.
But yeah,
grow
but
it.
just overall question though.
Yes.
That's not restricting. Thank you.
Well, let's do a roll call vote.
Well, let's make sure I got the motion. I'm gonna keep it as simple as you possibly, I don't think we need to do this to death here. The Parks and Recreation Board recommends moving forward with the Zorn Park Garden in partnership with the Garden Club. for the garden to not exceed 16 feet.
Are we
Knowing that
saying
we're gonna recommend, and I can put recommend smaller, if we'd like.
I'd like to add though, that our preference is also for less hardscape
Okay, yep.
on that garden.
Recommendation for less hardscape, which
And
would
can we
automatically
also-
make it smaller.
Can we also say a modest sign? Again,
One of
that's
those
Lucy.
pictures had the size of the sign.
I don't think we should bring the sign to it. I think we should leave that for another. Okay. That's fair. Let's do a roll call vote. Everybody get comfortable with that? Good. 6 out.
Yes,
Scott Reese,
Yes.
Dan Mulder,
Yes.
Danny Roger,
Yes.
Sarah McLean.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys. Very exciting.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Here, this will likely go to council, their May 5th meeting. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate all you do.
Thank you all for everything you do.
A lot of master gardeners working on that.
Wow.
Can't wait to see it.
Love it.
Thank you.
we'll go make it.
Yeah, I'll confirm that, most likely it'll be the May 5th. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you. We're now at 7:00. Should we continue on with Harborview?
I think, yeah, because we just gotta go with the site plan. We don't have to go through the
So
whole.
on Harborview, we're just going to the site plan, not the whole thing.
And we can just touch on it quick and we're missing some numbers, so. We want that bigger.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah. So this is what we talked about last time. Just a thought that maybe, as we did with Shea Park, we don't show it as a complete loop first time out, and we always can finish it later. Maybe it's enough. So there's a little widened out area there that will be a lookout, and there's a telescope next to the flagpole. And there's a little area along the path where there's interpretive signage that talks about Little Traverse Bay. The lilac garden is kind of along where the pickleball courts are. There is an extra 10 feet out from the pickleball courts, which is what Rachel is thinking if we do reconfigure that should cover any reconfiguring. And some more trees are added. I think there's 7 total. So those would be the ones hopefully coming from Shea Park. And then I think that's it. I did add a little hedge along that lookout area just because it falls off pretty steeply. That could be an optional thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Benches along the lookout area and tables.
How many tables are you planning?
I have 6 shown there, but
For rock, yeah. There's about 4 there now, 3 or 4 in the summer.
I think it would be nice. There's no signage for this park anywhere, so I think it'd be nice to maybe have a sign out by Hoyt. And then maybe another one right, where it comes in off the little service drive there. And we're not addressing it. There's a little grilling area off the that's a 20 by 40 picnic shelter there. And I think in the future, it'd be really nice to discuss, as we said, there's never water in the retention, kind of filling that in and maybe extending
Yeah.
the parking and then maybe moving the access drive to the south so that you actually could have a little drop off for parents dropping kids off for the skate park or for
Yeah, I think this would be a great gathering place for the pickleball people, the skate park and the ball fields. Yeah, I've been to a lot of ball fields and almost all of them have some sort of a picnic area where families can gather.
I think so too. And there is some support for it in the surveys. I did do a quick look before the meeting tonight. So we'll see how it goes. Rachel's going to talk a little bit about what the next steps on this might be.
Yeah, we have time to go.
I guess one more benefit too, somewhere there's a list of benefits, but I think this is a really nice package to apply for a passport grant. You have the community, pulling the community together aspect, you have the education aspect, you have the all ages ADA aspect.
we have a couple options. And these are very, very rough dates, so bear with me. April 2025, staff works with the board and we kind of finalize that site plan sometime this spring, we'll say. We say this is the site plan we want to bring to council. All summer, I recommend that we post in the Harbor Light, the school newspaper, the chamber, we really get this site plan out. And maybe we even do something up at the park and we measure everything out so people can see the size.
Put up our canopies.
Yeah, and kind of like what we're thinking. July or August, we bring the site plan to council and we would request for engineering funds for 2026. Okay, so that would put in our 2026 budget to work with a company and get the engineering sorted out. The engineering would
Can I ask
then.
a quick
Yeah.
question? I'm sorry. Do we need the engineering drawings to apply for the grant?
You can apply for engineering within the grant. I think for the passport. I don't know if you can for the trust fund. I would have to look.
But I guess we can't really have planning commission look at it until we have engineering, right?
Correct. So let's just assume, I mean, if council says no, then we go for a grant for the engineering. So we get the engineering. Then we get visuals of the park and then we take that to planning commission. Planning commission would make a recommendation to council. And then we would go to council to get their go-ahead to apply for a DNR grant. Now, there are a couple of different DNR grants we can apply for. The passport is from the piece that some of us get on our cards to go to the state park. That is how that is funded. The minimum is $7,500, the maximum grant amount is $150,000. So depending on how we phased it, things like that, it may make the mark, it may not be enough. It kind of depends. We know how prices are. It does require 25% match. It's reimbursement style, application deadline is April 2nd. It's about 12 months until the project agreement. So that's kind of the thought of asking council for engineering, working with engineering and then getting the grant in, because grants do take quite a bit of time. For a passport, public hearing is not required, but you do have to have it on set agendas for the public to be a part of. You go above and beyond that. And it just needs to be in our capital improvement project list, which it is.
Rachel, is it correct to say that if we don't get the engineering money from council, that it's gonna put the whole thing off another year, like to 2028?
It could potentially, yeah. And we can also get estimates for engineering before we go to council, so we kind of know what we're looking at. The passport's a little more lenient than the trust fund grant. So the trust fund is from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. It's a minimum of $15,000 and a maximum of $400,000. It's a 25% match. Again, April 1st is the deadline. It's a 12 to 18 months before you break ground usually and are awarded the grant money. It does require a public hearing, and it must be part of our 5-year plan. So right now, Harborview is not part of our 2023 to 2027 master plan. So if we did decide to go for the trust fund, the bigger dollar amount, we need to keep in mind we would have to wait for our master plan to be revamped for 2028. That's okay. It just sets us off a little bit of time, but it gives more time for planning. There are benefits to both ways. Considerations, the 25% match can be through the general fund, donations, other grants, professional in-kind services. It can even be council paying for the engineering cost. So there are benefits to that. And then I already said this, but if we choose the trust fund grant, we'd have to wait for our master plan. So the only thing we're saying now is we need to work on this site plan. We need to really get some public input this summer. And then the potential is to ask for engineering dollars for 2026. So no matter what, it's a couple years from breaking ground either way. But this gets our ducks in a row to be able to apply for grant.
Theoretically, we have money left over from last year.
That's not how that works, unfortunately.
So, I mean, it feels like both of these grants are great
They are.
ways to go. One thing it might be helpful to be clear to the public about is that, this is it's a relatively small park and it would be great to do if we got grant money to do it. If we don't get grant money, I'm not necessarily sure where council feels like it lands on the grand scheme of things, and that's, that's kind of up to them, but it feels like there's some good opportunity here in the short term to look for grant money to do this. Part of that is to do some public education and some public input this summer to try to help us with that grant, with the idea being we're going towards next April as
Right.
for
And-
grant application, right?
In full disclosure, I mean, we may get so much public input. And this is like best case scenario. Let's say we do a bunch of public input, we bring in the Little League and someone says, I want to help you fund this pavilion. And we just attach the walkway to the pavilion, maybe at a later date. We do the rest, like it could be phased. So I think the sooner we figure out a site plan and we get as much public input as we can kind of put in the pieces of what funding will look like. For the future, because the community foundation has grants, like there are a lot of different avenues we can take. It doesn't have to be a DNR grant. This is just showing how long those DNR grants take, pushing us to do a lot of that public input this year, because next year is going to be really heavy on our master plan. It's just showing that it's not that simple as just filling out an application and
Right.
poof, here are the funds. So,
Maggie-
but Danny makes a great point.
Maggie, you've also mentioned before that you know a bunch of people in the community and the picnic shelter would just be a really great discrete project if there was a group that wanted to come together to either provide in-kind services or donate the funds for it.
Yeah, you're talking to this Maggie.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think that you're gonna get a good response from the public on this and a lot of helpers that would want to help out with it. And it's nice to know that we have the DNR grants in our back pocket, but I think you're gonna get a lot of support from the public for this project.
Other Maggie, you're welcome to help too.
Do you have any questions?
I really like the site plan that's been worked up, makes a ton of sense. I like the idea of phasing it in our own minds. Maybe we put on the site map sort
Yeah.
of like indicate where we're thinking the phases might be. So as we're talking to the public, we can get input on that too. Maybe they
Yeah.
think, oh gosh, you really need to get out so we can have I don't know what it is, or we really want a lilac. I don't know, but it'd be nice to get some input from the public on what they think is their priority for the park.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do, right?
So I think next steps would be May, we'll bring a final draft site plan when the whole board is here and we can decide, and then we pick a date for the summer when we believe people will be in town and we can do a site visit, and that gives us time to mark everything off with potential sizes of pavilions and what the path could look like and what the phases could look like. And then we really get the public involved. We post in the Harbor Light and all the avenues possible. So is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any public comment?
I'm not gonna talk.
That's
Any comments on Zoom? Okay, so we'll wait till everybody's here before we do a
Yeah.
final pass. and-
Yeah, we'll just bring that, phase out and then see.
Okay.
Okay,
then-
report.
Yeah.
Shade Park Engineering will be on the agenda for Monday, April 21st. I have not seen it yet. It's supposed to come today or tomorrow. I checked my email today. The Easter eggs are filled and ready to go for the Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 19th, 11 a.m. at Zorn Park. Thank you for all those that joined us at City Hall, like Holy Childhood. There was another church that showed up and they just like knocked those eggs out. It was amazing. Some high school kids showed up. So thank you to them.
Rachel,
Yeah,
the Easter Bunny costume has been repaired and it should be
perfect,
fine.
perfect.
And do we have an Easter bunny?
Yeah, yes, we have an Easter Bunny.
What time do you want us to be there?
10:15.
Good.
Did you say 10:15 or 15?
Yeah, 10, because last year it took a while to put those eggs out.
It did.
Longer than I think we planned on.
Yeah.
Park updates. I have this nifty ice storm tracker I've been using. So this is the list of all of our parks. When it says not applicable, it just means like a tree didn't go down or there's nothing to clean up. But this is marked of everything completed. The piles removed by DPW has not been updated. I'm sure some of those are gone, but I haven't noticed. And then rates by volunteers and staff, like Janet Stewart did like all of Kiwanis rigging by herself in
She's
like 3 days. So
Yeah.
thank you to Janet. Thank you to
She's
the high
my
school-
neighbor and she's the best person ever.
Oh my gosh. Then thank you to the high school key club, came and raked Sunday with Dana and I at Zorn Park, upper and lower. So that's completed. And then JT and Jennifer Charles live on, they cleaned up like child's everything, like so many things, like at least 4 parks they raked. Cozaquat was a big one. So thank you to them. I'm sure there are others, but.
Do you need help with thank you notes or you got that?
No, I think we got that. Working with Lucas on it, 'cause he had people to thank too. So this is our trackers. We're actually in a really good spot. Some of our parks never look this nice by April. So,
And then you were gonna go around with Ben Beeling and see
Yeah.
what additional trimming.
so yeah, so the disc golf course is a labyrinth. People are using it. We posted signs saying play your, now like real play at your own risk due to the ice storm. That's gonna take Nate and I probably a month. That's gonna take some real time. And then Ben Vealing is a city arborist. He's gonna come the next couple weeks and assess some of the trees that are damaged but may not need to be taken down. I don't feel our tree inventory is gonna be disrupted too much. But those birches down at Child's Park are gonna go.
Child's Park.
So I just want everyone to be prepared for those, I know. So if you have any questions on this, let me know. Nate Graham reached out and also wants to do like a volunteer day, not this weekend, but maybe next weekend, and post it in the Harbor Light. So it may not be in our parks, but the Wheelway, like private, like other opportunities.
I think Lucas and his group are doing a great job.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And then Trevor Vandenbrink is gonna coordinate, in early May, a meet between parks and a few disc golfers for cleanup. Some of the trees that fell kind of opened opportunities in a way to adjust the course a little bit. So we're working on that. I already went over the Key Club, I went over JT. And then here's our programming. That's just the same as it has been. And then here are just some parks. Oh, Sneaky Beach is not that sneaky anymore. We took the trees that fell and we took the logs and we lined the path. And so the path is now lined.
Wow.
It actually looks really nice. So, yeah, and that's like where JT Charles and his wife, Jennifer, where they raked, and Child's Park looks really
Wow.
nice,
That's
so.
great.
Yeah, they're looking good. The Little League, it's done a cleanup day, so the fields look nice. Yeah,
Excellent.
Good.
Anything else anybody wants to discuss?
Just huge thanks for all that cleanup. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that was a big project. We really appreciate everything you guys did at City Hall and in the parks, and all the communication was absolutely fantastic.
Yep,
Huge thanks.
thank you. Okay, meeting adjourned.